In over 3 decades, MMA has evolved from a brutal, ruleless spectacle to one of the world's fastest-growing sports today. From the chaotic UFC 1, the beginning, to the scrutiny of the 90s leading to the Dark Ages, MMA faced transformation with rule implementations and the introduction of weight classes. The sport's pivotal moment came with the Ultimate Fighter reality show, showcasing athletes beyond the octagon and securing the UFC's survival. It's time to recall this incredible journey, from Royce Gracie and UFC's early beginnings to Conor McGregor's era, when MMA reached its peak, valued at $10 billion. Let's take a trip down memory lane to a legendary match between Muhammad Ali, the boxing icon, and the Japanese wrestler Antonio Inoki. The stage was set on June 26, 1976, at the Nippon Budokan Arena in Tokyo, Japan, and the event was aptly named the War of the Worlds. Now everyone knew Ali as the undisputed heavyweight boxing champion, fresh off a knockout victory against Richard Dunn. But the real buzz was about how Ali, the boxing maestro, would fare against Inoki, a skilled wrestler with a different martial arts background. It was like watching two worlds collide, and fans couldn't wait to see the sparks fly. Inoki was on a mission to showcase pro wrestling as a lethal martial art, taking on champions from various disciplines. The bout itself was unique, with special rules and a bit different from what people expected. Inoki spent much time on the ground, kicking Ali's legs, while Ali was strategically trying to land punches. Although the fight may not have been as flashy as anticipated, little did everyone know that it was setting the stage for the future of mixed martial arts. Fast forward to 1985, and Japan's Shuto organization hosted the first well-documented MMA series, predating the birth of the UFC by 8 years. Founded by Satoru Sayama, Shuto aimed to create an effective combat system derived from shoot wrestling. Back then, MMA was a showcase of diverse martial arts, each with a distinct fighting style. People were intrigued by the what-if scenarios. What if a boxer faced a wrestler, or a karate expert took on a judo master? To settle these debates, the idea of a tournament featuring fighters from various martial arts emerged. Finally, on November 12, 1993, in Denver, Colorado, the first UFC event unfolded, answering those lingering questions and reshaping the world of martial arts forever. It was a groundbreaking moment that brought together fighters from different disciplines to determine the most effective martial art in one-on-one combat. And just like that, the UFC was born. The day when the UFC was born. UFC 1. The beginning was the very first mixed martial arts event organized by the UFC. Think of it like a real-life Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat tournament, but with real people throwing down. Back then, it was a wild scene. No judges' scores, gloves, or time limits. It was a true free-for-all, with the only rules being no biting or eye gouging. 8 top-notch fighters from around the world went head-to-head to figure out who was the ultimate fighter and which martial art reigned supreme. In the first bout, Gerard Gordeau faced off against Telia Tuli, a sumo wrestler weighing a whopping 410 pounds. Despite the massive size difference, Gordeau surprised everyone with a knockout victory, making the giant cry like a pussycat. In the second bout, kickboxer Kevin Rosier faced off against Zane Frazier, repping Kenpo. Rosier started strong, aiming to close in on Frazier, who tried to keep some distance for precise strikes. Rosier went all in early, landing heavy hits and even some ground-and-pound shots. After a bit of back and forth, Frazier couldn't capitalize on Rosier's failed choke attempt. Both fighters got tired, stumbling around like they had a few too many. Rosier, with a bit more energy, knocked Frazier down with strikes. Frazier's corner threw in the towel, and Kevin Rosier was declared the winner. In the third match, Royce Gracie, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu maestro, squared off against Art Jimerson, a boxer. Now, many folks thought Jimerson would clock Gracie with a punch because, boxing was seen as a real powerhouse back then, and not many knew what jiu-jitsu was about. But here's the twist. Gracie surprised everyone. He went for a double-leg takedown, bringing Jimerson to the ground faster than anyone expected. Once there, Gracie took control from a mount position. Poor Jimerson was out of his element, not knowing how to handle the ground game. After some desperate struggles, Jimerson tapped out, and Royce Gracie was declared the winner. Turns out the ground is Gracie's territory. The last quarterfinal bout saw Ken Shamrock, a shoot fighter, taking on Patrick Smith, a Taekwondo expert. Shamrock's ground game proved dominant, and he secured the win with a surprising leg lock. In the semis, Gordeau took on kickboxing champ Kevin Rosier and wasted no time going for those lead leg kicks. Rozier, a bit worn out from his previous bout, couldn't quite keep up and found himself pressed against the cage. The Dutchman unleashed a flurry of strikes, including a body stomp, and the ref had to step in to stop the show. Now in the other semi, Royce Gracie went straight for a takedown against Shamrock. Things got a bit tangled up, but the Brazilian managed to get the upper hand, eventually securing a choke for the win. Little did we know that the stage was set for one of the biggest MMA rivalries ever. In the final showdown, Gracie faced off against Gordeau. Gracie's game plan was crystal clear. He closed the distance, got Gordeau in a clinch, and after some struggles took him down. The finishing touch, a rear naked choke that sealed the deal. And there you have it, history in the making. Royce Gracie not only became the first UFC champion, but also showed everyone the power of jiu-jitsu and just how lethal this martial art can be. Like the video so far? Make sure to knock out that subscribe button. UFC during the 90s and the dark ages of the sport. After the wild ride that was UFC 1, mixed martial arts started gaining traction through organizations like Pride, FC, and UFC. Now, the 90s had some jaw-dropping bouts that would raise eyebrows today. In UFC 2, Patrick Smith was giving Scott Morris a serious beating. The rules back then were a bit hands-off, and poor Scott's corner didn't throw in the towel. Patrick Smith was going all out, dishing out punishment, and it was a scene you wouldn't see in today's UFC. Luckily, Scott managed to walk away from the beating. Jump to UFC 3, where Keith Hackney faced sumo wrestler Emmanuel Yarborough. Hackney unleashed a whopping 41 hammer fists, punches, and forearms, literally breaking his own hand in the process, all without gloves. Fast forward to UFC 8. Gary Goodridge pulled off a move called the gooseneck on Paul Herrera. It was over in 13 seconds. The same time Conor McGregor needed to finish Jose Aldo later on. Talk about fast. Now all this brutality caught the attention of Senator McCain, who called MMA human cockfighting and campaigned to ban it across the USA. UFC felt the heat, dropped from major cable distributors, banned in 36 states, and plunged into what we now call the dark ages. Under all that pressure, UFC had to shake things up. They introduced weight classes, mandatory gloves, and a bunch of new rules. No hair pulling, groin strikes, headbutting, fish hooks, or kicking a downed opponent. By UFC 21, they brought in the standard 3 by 5 minute rounds, turning MMA into a respectable sport instead of a wild spectacle. The turning events that saved the UFC. Fast forward almost 12 years from the first UFC event, and we've got Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta, along with UFC president Dana White, pouring loads of cash into the organization. But truth be told, they weren't seeing much green in return. It got to a point where they were thinking about throwing in the towel, which could have been a major bummer for the growth of MMA. Lucky for us fans, they decided to give it one more shot with a reality show, The Ultimate Fighter. They wanted to showcase the personalities and stories of the athletes beyond the octagon, and guess what? It worked. The pivotal moment came in the season finale, where Ultimate Fighter finalists Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar threw down in what's now considered one of the greatest MMA fights ever. It was an epic battle that still gets people talking. After that historic night behind the venue, the UFC and Spike TV shook hands on a deal to keep the Ultimate Fighter alive. History was made, and the UFC didn't just survive, it thrived. Talk about a game changer. After seeing how much fans loved fighters showing their true selves on The Ultimate Fighter, Dana came up with a cool plan in 2011. He set aside $240,000 and dished out quarterly $5,000 bonuses to fighters who rocked it on Twitter and boosted their followers the most. It might sound like pocket change, but check this out. It worked like magic over time. Now take a peek at some Instagram follower stats. Conor McGregor, 39.9 million. Khabib Nurmagomedov, 28.4 million. Ronda Rousey, 13.3 million. John Bones Jones, 5.8 million. Nate Diaz, 4.8 million. Impressive, right? And guess what? Other big leagues like the NBA and NFL have hopped on the social media train too, encouraging players to share their stories. Even the PGA Tour and others are doing similar social media payouts. In 2020, the UFC's Facebook following shot up by 75%, proving that social media is a game changer. The UFC's journey is a real success story. They took a struggling business, put it back on its feet, and gained a super dedicated fan base by letting fighters shine. Today, the UFC is valued at a whopping $9 billion to $10 billion. Dana White and the Fertitta brothers deserve a round of applause for their marketing masterclass. While everyone's cheering for Formula One and Netflix, let us not forget the UFC was the pioneer in attracting viewers through their awesome fighter personalities. Conclusion: From the untamed origins of MMA, symbolized by Royce Gracie's triumph at UFC 1, to the modern era led by fighters like Conor McGregor, the sport's evolution reflects resilience and adaptability. The UFC's journey, marked by challenges and triumphs, from the dark ages to financial success, showcases its ability to navigate obstacles. Key moments, such as the introduction of weight classes and the groundbreaking reality show The Ultimate Fighter, not only rescued the UFC but elevated MMA to global prominence. The evolution of MMA is a story of discipline, adaptability, and the unwavering passion that defines its fighters. Beyond being a sport, it's a saga of human spirit and determination, captivating audiences worldwide and proving the enduring power of MMA to engage and inspire. And what do you guys think? Why do you think MMA has become the fastest growing sport today? Share your thoughts in the comments, smash the like button, and subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers and keep the excitement going in the octagon.